And it is Thursday night, Crossfire Thursdays. Indeed, time for our discussion this evening. Remember, you can get in touch with me. I'm at Sophia Wanuna. I would like to hear your thoughts on some of the things we'll be discussing this evening. And joining me in studio for our chat tonight, on my extreme left is Honorable Ndungu Gethinji, making a debut on Crossfire. He's a former Tetu Member of Parliament. We have with us almost a resident, Gladys Boss, who's an Uasin Gishu woman rep. She's been here several times. Also, for the first time on Crossfire, Cyrus Jakakimba. He is a senior advisor to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us this evening. I'll begin with just some of a story we just aired a little while ago, and even had a short interview with Junet Mohammed, the minority whip in the National Assembly. And I'll start with you, Jakakimba, because that meeting at Jubilee Party, we saw Murathe, the Vice Chair, the Secretary General, ODM, as well as that of Jubilee, alongside, it was Sifuna, Murathe, Junet, and Tuju, yes, one name was skipping me. And so it has got tongues wagging. There's already a handshake. So what is going on here? Is it another working alliance, perhaps, that's being sought? What can you tell us?
Not exactly. We are already in the handshake.
Yes.
And it is normal for the leadership and captains of both parties, that is ODM and Jubilee,
yes,
to keep consulting from time to time on emerging issues.
Yeah.
So it's just a normal homekeeping meeting that happened today.
Yeah, but I always feel like those photo ops are meant to send a message. I wonder if you agree, Gladys.
No, I think they tried the handshake. It has failed. So they are now trying to make another attempt at alliances.
How has the
Maybe
handshake
they want
failed?
to send a message that Jubilee is going to form an alliance with ODM. Hence the reason why you saw not just the principals, but the party secretary generals.
Yeah.
So they're just in a state of confusion. None of the plans they've planned has worked. They have seen that NASA is dead, practically. So, and the handshake didn't achieve what it was intended to achieve.
And yet the president was praising the handshake. When you say the handshake has failed, how so? That's a blanket statement, isn't it?
I mean, the handshake was intended to deliver BBI and hopefully give Raila Odinga a platform to ascend to the presidency much easier using state resources. And that didn't work. And what you see the president doing, it's bravado. Of course, when you've suffered such a huge setback, you just have to try and encourage your supporters and say, I think we are on the right track and the handshake is good. If the handshake was good, our economy would be doing well, we wouldn't have lost the jobs that we lost, and this country we'd be talking about him cementing his legacy in his last 12 months in office.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder what you made of that meeting, the photo op, and also what you're hearing from their two other guests.
Well, I beg to differ with my dear sister, Mheshimiwa Gladys, on the failure of the handshake. I think the handshake has been largely successful in ensuring that there's an environment of stability and peace in which the administration, the Jubilee administration, and His Excellency the President can carry out his mandate of his final term.
Yeah.
After the last election of 2017, you saw the environment in which the country was in. It was in a total state of pandemic, of turmoil and pandemonium. And, the president, in his wisdom, knew that the situation in the country was untenable. Half of the country was with Raila Odinga and the other half was with him. And therefore, for him to be an effective leader, for him to be, the statesman that he required himself to be in order for him to manage the situation and manage his final term, he needed to reach out and build bridges, as he told us. And the ultimate output of that has been a peace dividend. And that peace dividend cannot be monetized or valued. Without peace, nothing could have happened in this country. So for all it's worth, the handshake was a necessary step and has brought a dividend for the president and for the Jubilee administration in terms of governance and management of the governance systems.
Yeah.
So these new initiatives could be just, logical conclusions to that, follow-throughs to that. creating more alliances going forward, because ultimately there is an election coming up in less than or just over 1 year.
Yeah.
And politicians are politicians, and they have to do what politicians do.
It would feel for some, Jakakimba, that the president, in seeking to have the leaders come together, he has, as I was saying, an agreement, working arrangement with Wiper, with KANU, that he's seeking to do that with ODM. And in essence, you will all find yourselves in one pool, and then the real jostling of who the captain is will begin. I wonder, isn't there merit to that he has constantly said, why don't you leaders come together?
Well, this is the point, Sophia. Mm-hmm. And in answer to my former teacher, boss, the handshake has broadly brought an environment of peace, stability, that has given the president and the executive the environment to focus on development.
Yes.
Vis-a-vis the usual politics that this formation, the Tanga formation, has been focusing on throughout the past 4 years. And she just spoke about the poor status of the economy as it is today. She needs to know that what we have been trying to deal with now within the handshake environment, within the broader handshake environment, is to correct the ills that happened in Jubilee Term 1. That majorly came about due to corruption, high-level corruption. So that is what the president has been able to do within the past 4 years, because there's an environment to deal with the ills that happened when they were doing their Term 1.
Yeah. And you're saying what the president alluded to in saying that he's now done so much with Raila working with him in the second term than the first term, and alluding to the same corruption. So, in essence, a subtle message to say all the graft witnessed in this country, Mr. Deputy President William Ruto is responsible. Is that the message been sent?
I won't make reference to the person of the Deputy President, but I know that that formation, including its leadership, has been responsible. And to make reference to what they've been talking about lately, and she's always on TV showrooms, talk about the so-called bottom-up approach. This is a twisted philosophy to loot from bottom, to loot Mama Mboga, going up to the taxpayers, all the levels of taxpayers across the country. So I think Kenyans know these folks for who they are, and in the next few months, 13 to 14 months, the nation will make a decision.
And Kalonzo also alluded to the same. So it's not only the president. He said, if in an interview at NTV, that in fact, if the deputy president was elected, Kenya would be all about graft. So that appears to be the common message coming across.
Okay, I'll respond to that. One, let us confirm something. The head of state, President Uhuru Kenyatta, recently told Kenyans on live television and all newsrooms that 2 billion shillings is being stolen from Kenya daily. That is an admission by the head of state. How is it that you're sitting as president and 2 billion is being stolen? Then you want to blame somebody else whom you're not even working with. I think that is a lie. So why is not dealing, now that William Ruto is out, why is it that 2 billion is still missing the last 4 years? Because William Ruto, you said, has been out for 4 years. Why is it that 2 billion shillings is still being stolen every day? Now, let me respond to that issue that you say that we needed to have relative calm in the country and peace so that the president can be able to drive his activities. Are you telling me that it is within the rule of law that a person who loses an election will cause mayhem in the country to the point that he has to be tamed by being given a position in government, being given a position in the African Union where he earns 2 million shillings, unreliably informed, so that he can be calm and be told that you have this BBI process which you're going to spearhead, and therefore don't go to the streets anymore. That is wrong. In fact, anyone who refuses to accept defeat and cause mayhem in the country, then must face the law, because there should be consequences for that kind of behavior. What precedent are we setting? Because the next time somebody loses, then we go on the streets until somebody shakes our hand and tells us, I will give you some positions. In essence, actually, what you're saying, even if you believe that it has brought relative calm and allowed the president to work, What has actually happened is that it has killed the opposition, and it has allowed the president to have a free hand to do whatever he wants. That's why Raila Odinga, credit goes to him. Whenever there was any corruption, he's the one used to call it out. NYS, he called it out. Eurobond, he called it out. SGR, he called it out.
Yes.
When IEBC, he called it out. He was always the one at the forefront. That was Raila's brand. The other day, 40 billion shillings was stolen from KEMSA, and Murathe, whom they were sitting with today, admitted to Parliament that the money was paid to his account. And he got away with it. Why? Because Raila Odinga has been tamed and made impotent by the handshake.
I just want to ask a quick question.
Yes.
I mean, Mheshimiwa here said something interesting. She said the president, is talking about somebody who he's not working with. Are you saying that the deputy president is not working with the president? Because then that is another cause for alarm, because surely this is Jubilee. They were elected together. It was Uhuruto, Tano Tena.
And I want us to have a look at some tweets.
And now we're having a discussion about they're not working.
Since March 2018.
Then why is he in the same government? If he's finding that he's not working in the government that he's in, the obvious thing is for him to decamp. Why stay in something that is not working and complain from inside? And over and above that, there is the issue of the three arms of government: the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. Checks and balances are structured within all those institutions. You being a former judicial officer, you know that the judiciary has a role to play in checking corruption and checking excesses of the executive. So to put all that load on Raila Amolo Odinga is to make a demigod out of the man. I'm talking about checks and balances inherent in the governance systems of our country. So we cannot single out, Raila Odinga not playing his role, and therefore there is no check and balance in the country. I think that would be misguided.
So before you perhaps some tweets I wanted to bring to our attention. I'm sure we got to see them from the Deputy President. This is after some report from the Star newspaper that Uhuru will I'll back one NASA chief for presidency. These are reports that have been disputed by the Wiper leader has said that was not said in that meeting, which was when he was meeting leaders from the Kamba region. But this was his response. How do you read this one? Ucho. Ucho.
Ucho.
Ucho.
Ucho.
Which is like say guy.
Guy Fafa Mwadhani. So what happens to the Thurakus, the Kumera contingent, the 8 million of us, no youth, no woman, no man of 8 million who woke up early and voted 3 times for UK WSR ticket merit support? Sawa tu tutajipanga na support ya Mungu. There's also another one after that one. If you could also put it up as well. He tweeted a few moments later, I believe. So as a distraction, dismembering of Jubilee, a national party meant to pave way for support of regions, tribal parties in NASA. Now with the collapse of Jubilee, isn't it fair for those who can't fit in ethnic parties to build UDA as an alternative national party? And so I'll because I know you're two almost against one. I'll come back to you before I come here. It's only fair.
I'm not against my dear sister.
And don't worry, I can take it. I'm strong enough.
You can
Bring it on, bring it on.
But it's the point you were raising, that then why is he staying within the party and as deputy president? And to his tweet that, UDA because Jubilee has collapsed. So why isn't he making that move and saying, if the president can't fire him, so if it's not working...
Well, the president can't fire him. The president did not appoint him.
Correct.
He was elected by Kenyans.
So why not leave?
He brought in votes to the Uhuru Ruto campaign.
Correct.
And I think what you're saying is in theory, that he's in the party, they work together. I think the writing is on the wall. Let's not be theoretical about this. Practically, even without being told... Take action. Without being told, we can see that since the handshake, the president has sidelined the DP. And this was the first time it has happened in the history of Kenya. We saw that happened during the Kibaki regime. In 2002, he came in as the most popular president ever. I think he won by almost 62%. And then, within 2 years, he got rid of everybody who was part of, and it was, remember, it was, NAC was the face of Kenya. He got rid of everybody. Exactly what Uhuru Kenyatta is doing now. Throw everyone out until the Jubilee becomes a shell. And that is what has happened to Jubilee. It also happened to KANU, when KANU started expelling people, until eventually KANU became a shell.
So are you surprised by this brazen nature, that it has degenerated to this level, that it's all out, guns blazing, you're seeing the DP on the president? I will come back to you. Yes.
I would say yes. And yes, because the DP seems to be talking from both sides of the mouth.
How so?
In the first few months of term 2 of this administration, he used to say every day, every opportunity he got, that they came together on a transformation platform, national unity agenda platform. And when the president reached out to Mr. Odinga within the handshake environment, things changed. And to date, the DP has never spoken about transformation agenda and the unity agenda. And I would remind you of what the president said in Western. I attended a funeral of Mama Musala Mudavadi, that maybe it's time that we bring the country together, and himself and of course the deputy president who was there could consider having other people, you know, lead the nation, other communities or members from other communities. And you know what happened after that? I think that is when these tweets started coming out from that handle.
When you said this majoritarianism needs to be dealt with, that we need to go outside the Kikuyu and Kalenjin
because
in terms of
the idea that informs the handshake, it's broader than BBI. BBI is just a child of the handshake, Mwalimu. BBI is just a byproduct of the handshake. The handshake vision is broader. It's about shared prosperity, one united nation. And it's funny that when everybody is now being brought to the table together and that environment is being created, all doors and windows are opened, then the DP finds excuse to jump ship because he feels...
But some would fault the president in asking, has he just realized now towards the end of his term that these two communities have dominated Kenyan politics? Why did this epiphany, if at all, occur in 2013?
Not quite. We need to, as a nation, agree that politics of exclusivity has been the problem that leads to cyclic conflicts every 5 years after elections.
Okay.
And until we deal with that, even if we were to do expansive, deep-rooted electoral infrastructure changes, until we get it right on inclusivity, Mwalimu, we will not head anywhere as a country.
And
that is what...
Allow me to explain. I think this, let me just explain. It's a fallacy.
Let me just jump in.
Okay, it wasn't my turn.
I will occasionally keep giving you
I even wanted to respond to what dear Gladys said.
Yes.
And I was quite surprised because what I'm hearing her saying is that the deputy president you know, has been in an abusive relationship, and he is now, you know, showing signs and symptoms of battered spouse syndrome, where you cannot leave. You're abused, but you can't do anything about it. You can't get out. You're stuck there. The honorable thing to do for him, if he finds it untenable, if he finds that the relationship has broken down, if he finds that what he signed up for is not what he's getting today, the honorable thing for him to do is step aside, get out of the system. Start your own shop.
That's what they've been counting on all this time.
Attract the voters that you claim to have, and not you know, erode the house from the foundations from within it. Over and above that, the issue about inclusivity, I've been on record severally saying that democracy, the one we know, the Western democracy, the one-size-fits-all, first-past-the-post, winner-take-all democracy that we know and love, is not a good system for Africa. That system works when the society is homogeneous. We are not homogeneous. We are heterogeneous. We have several communities, several ethnicities, and it guarantees, when we have a democratic system, that people will gravitate to the lowest common denominator, which is charity begins at home, which now they devolve to their ethnicities. Okay? Now, the unfortunate reality is that in Kenya, there are some ethnicities which are more than others. So you will always tend to get this aggregation of larger communities coming together, you know, and using their voting power, their plebiscite, the suffrage at the ballot to win and win power. And that is the reality of the system we have. Chapter 2, Article 4(2) says Kenya will be a multi-party democracy. Now, until that is addressed...
We're a multi-party dictatorship at the moment.
Well, neither here nor there. That is where the challenge is. It is 4(2) of Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Nobody is addressing that. You're all complaining about things around it, but the fundamental issue is here. Once you accept that system, then you accept everything that comes along with it, including tyranny of numbers.
Okay. So as you speak to that, because one of the conventions we've had around why devolution was put in place was to devolve power from the center. So
that's exactly what I wanted to tell them.
It's
a fallacy about saying that BBI or the Constitution has to be amended in order to have inclusivity. Yes, once upon a time in the history of Kenya, we did not have inclusivity. We had a tendency where a president could decide that I will not take development to a region that did not vote for me. It is for that reason that Kenyans vote for devolution, so that it is irrelevant who is the president. Because the 47 counties are guaranteed of resources going to the counties without worrying about the central government. It is a situation where if a road is broken in Uasin Gishu County, I don't have to come to the Ministry of Roads in Nairobi. I call the engineer of roads in Uasin Gishu and say, hey, we have a problem here. So that was the whole essence of having devolution. So when you tell me that BBI will bring you inclusivity, it's a fraud to Kenyans. That is not true.
So an expanded executive.
Sorry?
An expanded executive for you does not...
If you say you want to have an expanded executive, again, that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. Because what you're saying is 5 big tribal kingpins are going to give diversity to the executive. There is 42 ethnic groups in Kenya. Unless you're going to have 42 prime ministers. But we already have 47 governors, so that's not necessary anymore. So again, it's a very simplistic way. Are you telling me that once we have Mudavadi and have Kalonzo and have Raila Odinga and have who else and have Uhuru Kenyatta and Wetangula, Kenyans now will feel there is diversity in the country? Diversity is implemented not just through the top executive positions, making sure that the president comes from a different ethnic group, the deputy president is from a different ethnic group, the cabinet ministers all come from different ethnic groups other than that of the president. Okay. It makes sure that the head of the army is from a different ethnic group, the head of the public service is from a different ethnic group. So what we are saying is that is diversity, because you cannot achieve diversity by having a few tribal kingpins in the name of One Kenya Alliance and NASA, and then you tell us that is diversity.
I'll come
so
back
talking about before I lose the point, talking about diversity. Talking about diversity.
Now they both interrupted, and I allowed them to speak.
What happened when William Ruto? Hold on. 2-second point. What happened when William Ruto was given half of the government? What inclusivity did he do? In his half of the government, all his cabinet ministers are from Rift Valley. I mean, and here we're talking about inclusivity and leading by example.
Point made.
Surely.
We must not lie to Kenyans, Mwalimu. When William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta formed government in Jubilee 1, he got his share of the cabinet slots and at the government
now you're
appointment.
In the handshake. Did you get your share?
Hold on. When you spoke, I was quiet. I was quiet throughout.
Yes.
He got a fair share of his side of the appointments, both cabinet and other state
50%.
appointments. Where did he take his appointments? I'm talking about the deputy president. All the ministries, everything went to the Kalenjin nation.
Oh, he told you that those were made the appointments?
With or without BBI, and I'm telling you that the handshake agenda is broader than BBI. BBI is a byproduct of the handshake. With or without BBI, Kenyans should be able to interrogate the leaders that come to seek for their mandate. And if you look around, you would realize that her party leader, the deputy president, nobody knows what he stands for.
The party leader,
based on what he did,
at the moment is Uhuru Kenyatta.
No,
the deputy party leader is William Ruto, who's my next president.
Nobody knows what he stands for on governance, rule of law, corruption itself, Nobody knows what he stands for.
Thank you. Giving me a chance of what to say. Okay. Finish saying.
Nobody
Then
knows what he
I have a
stands
very
for.
good response.
And he wants to change Kenya with this twisted philosophy of looting from the bottom to the top. Looting Mambamboga.
Okay, let me put it. You said that what he stands for. One, he stands for the rule of law. At the moment, he's the only one who spoke on the issue of judges first. When he spoke about the BBI not being a popular initiative, he was the only one who spoke. That's on rule of law. On the issue of how we can change our economy, which is what ails people at the moment, he's spoken up and he's given an economic framework of what he would like to see changed in Kenya through the bottom-up approach.
And yet he's the deputy president currently
serving. He just confirmed to us. Yes. We all said, we know. Things started falling. Everything was okay starting 2013, 2017. Things started falling apart after March 2018. And if you say, if the BBI, hold on, let me finish this. I think if you say that Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga came together with the handshake so that they could promote diversity, then they had an opportunity to fire all the cabinet ministers and rearrange it so that there is diversity. Why haven't they done that? Because they had the opportunity. They can do it under the handshake. They don't have to wait for the constitutional amendment.
That at the very beginning, it was almost like co-president, and they shared the ministerial positions, and that those of the deputy president went to the people of his community. It has been an issue. Perception is powerful, and they have spoken of the same thing. What do you say to that direct
Yes,
sentiment?
I think if you look at it, who's the head of the army at the moment? Who is the Attorney General?
You are running away from my question.
I'm just saying that when you talk about a few cabinet ministers and then lump it as if all the other positions, I think we should be questioning the entire route, and that is why we tell ourselves the speaker, we know the community that he comes from. So, and that is why it is good. It is good that as Kenyans, we are having this conversation, and we know what lessons we've learned for it. They had an opportunity under the handshake to have that change. They did not make that change. So they can't tell us that once they pass the constitution, they are going to implement it. I think you're being myopic by just looking at a few cabinet secretaries and then trying to put it as a...
Mheshimiwa here has just said very clearly that the Deputy President believes in the rule of law. I believe there are cases from the post-election violence cases where land was meant to be returned to the occupants, which some of that land he was in occupation of. There's judgments against him to that effect. Those lands have never been returned to the occupants. Those people have never been resettled back on their property. So which rule of law is this that we're discussing? Is it selective rule of law when it doesn't inconvenience his personal interest? Or is it the rule of law that everybody in Kenya is expected to adhere to?
Okay, I think Mheshimiwa has to be very careful about this.
As a presidential candidate, as a person who wants to attract the faith and the trust of the entire nation, that rule of law cannot be selective, and it must be.
And yet the president is also...
hold on.
I suppose it applies both
I think Mheshimiwa here, you're treading on very dangerous ground. I think if you sought legal advice, you would not make those statements because they are inaccurate.
But
I come from Uasin, Gishu.
And he's not here to defend himself, so let's not go down.
But I think I take issue, and I think you should be speaking to your lawyers before you come on the show. Because what he has said, one, it is inaccurate. In Uasin, Gishu County, there aren't any people who haven't gotten back their land. If you remember, we had meetings in Sugoi with the entire Kikuyu community from the Gema community, headed by Kimani Ngunjiri of Nakuru, and it was the time there were discussions whether there was anything outstanding. And remember, that was culminations of various discussions which started way back, as far as back as 2013. I, Gladys Shollei, did put a bill in Parliament, the Kenya Reparations Bill, which was dealing with historical injustices. And when we were talking about historical injustices, it was from independence, not even from 2007. So can people tell us, we know which families took half the land in Kenya. They should come and that is what, and I'm saying there's various families who have actually been said, and the reparations bill was to give us an opportunity as Kenyans to come and sit down and say, let us correct this, and then we can close this chapter as Kenyans. And reparation sometimes is even just about an apology. So, and I did that because I'm from Uasin Gishu County and I'm passionate about it. So do not make any, cast any aspersions that you do not have facts on.
I will ask this.
These are things that are in the public domain. I'm not.
No, but don't pick from the newspapers.
I'm not casting
I think
aspersions
just check
on
the
anybody.
facts in the courts.
I was in Parliament for 5 years when these issues were being canvassed, even on the floor of the House.
Let's
so
move
these
this
are not
along.
things which are.
Are you not concerned then, Honorable Gethinji, that at the end of the day, if for Uhuru Kenyatta it appears that anyone but Ruto, in essence, that come together, let's work together, but this guy is not the one, do you feel like he is being almost emboldened and this sympathy votes or support because everyone appears to be coalescing and coming together against him?
Is that really the agenda or the purpose of people coming together? Because in my estimation, and I can speak for myself and the communities which I come from, which is the Mount Kenya community, when we look at the coming election, we're looking at our societal needs. In terms of population, we are one of the biggest communities collectively in the country. In terms of production, factors of production, we contribute a lot to the GDP. In terms of, even in terms of incarceration, you go to committee or any other maximum prison where the biggest number is there. So when we look at all those factors, we are thinking about how do we protect or ensure that our interest is protected in the coming election by using the communities that we have and the numbers, the voting blocks that we have, so that we can ensure that we have a favorable outcome for our community, and we are in a position to negotiate with other communities so that we can create an inclusive arrangement that is win-win for everybody, so that our voice, as considerable as it actually is, will be on the table and will be heard. That, I think,
You've been heard since independence.
Well, you see, unfortunately, it's not about...
Jakakimba says.
You see, this is the thing, and I find it so interesting and curious that the propaganda that was there during the colonial period, that the whole Kadu infiltration, decimate the large communities so that the small communities can be heard, that agenda was a British agenda. And that agenda was brought by some settler groups, which formed a group called Scorpion, which was designed to undermine the confidence of the larger communities by the smaller communities. That propaganda still exists in Kenya today. And so that when we are saying that we've been heard since independence, we're also forgetting who shed the most blood. I know the Nandis did a very good job in Rift Valley during the fight for freedom in Kenya. And the entire Mau Mau bloc, the Merus, the Embus, the Kirinyagas, the Kikuyus, the Muranga, it was a total war in that.
So I wonder if you're then saying the president is part of those propagating the propaganda, because he has said this thing needs to shift beyond the two and it needs to go to more people. So in essence, Sophie, you're saying he's part of that bandwagon.
No, I'm saying that opinion is valid. He's entitled to have his opinion and express it.
It's not right coming from a head of state. He's the symbol of unity.
Sophia, the president should be congratulated for manifesting statesmanship and patriotism by making that proposal for other communities to be brought to the table, to the main table of the cake. He should actually be
It's going to take 400 years for everyone to have a turn at the table. And that's why I'm saying we should look at diversity as participating in the entire
it was
government.
Not made
when we talk about, you've talked about independence. Let's fast track after we had independence. By the way, this is not the first time in the history of Kenya that we are using constitutional amendments to sideline someone. It happened to Jaramogi Odinga. That's how he was edged out of KANU.
All right.
And that is how he formed KPU.
Yes.
And then thereafter again, there was an attempt to use constitutional amendments.
I want to move this forward.
And you're not allowed me to mention
because
it
is his turn now. Before he says I am, I have completely. He's been quiet for quite some time.
Because I want to just respond to his coalescing and alliances.
I will be coming to that because we actually want to talk about some of those alliances and NASA and we saw Raila Odinga earlier today in Mombasa respond to what Kalonzo said, that he will not back him again. Raila saying he has not made up his mind on whether he'll run. Watu waache Bweka Bweka alisema. And I wonder what your thoughts, because some would say, really, Raila Odinga, all factors remaining constant, will not run in 2022?
No, ODM, as it were now, does not have a presidential candidate agreed on.
But we're talking about Raila Odinga.
No,
You
Raila
know the
Odinga,
sentiment that ODM is Raila and Raila is ODM, no matter what else is said out in public.
ODM is a big party with structures and systems.
Correct.
And we all know.
And Junet called them cows, that they follow Raila like cows. I'm quoting Junet in Parliament. It's on the Hansard.
Okay.
So in response to Honorable Kalonzo's remarks, I would say they were maybe premature, preemptive, because, and maybe they were, they came about due to pressure from aspirants. You know, the way aspirants, those who want to be MCAs and MPs and women reps, they normally pile a lot of pressure on their regional kingpins. And I think I see it in that light, because as it were, siasa kuna makasiriko, anakasirikia nani?
But interesting thing is the interesting thing is he has said the exact same thing. In 2012, he said that he would not support Odinga and he wanted to be backed. Also in 2017, he's now saying it again. So what should we make of this sentiment that he appears to keep repeating around?
We're in that moment where a coalition of the willing is trying to take shape. And the doors are open, as I said. And he's not exclusivist in nature. Even William Ruto, if he chooses to join, because this is about Kenya, the doors are open for him. Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka knows very well that the doors are open for him. It is not the time to talk about who will be the presidential candidate. It's the time to interrogate Project Kenya and where we want Kenya to go to next.
Yeah.
That is what's happening today.
I can tell you, my side of the political divide is watching this with great amusement. It's a comedy show. Because what has happened is, after the handshake, Raila abandoned his NASA affiliates. That is why you find Kalonzo and Mudavadi and Wetangula have now been sidelined, and they now say we no longer want to be in this NASA coalition. So ODM has been... No, hold on. I'm saying this
you are proceeding on a wrong premise, so let me help you.
No, I don't want you to help me.
Maybe it's because briefly as I come back to you.
No, I don't think that's his opinion.
And here everyone
I've just talked about Project Kenya. It's even when you make reference to Honorable Kalonzo's remarks yesterday, and we know what informed those remarks, the purported remarks by the head of state.
You've given us your interpretation of the remarks. I think I'm entitled to my interpretation of the remarks.
I'm saying what is being worked on is bigger than NASA. It's not a NASA affair.
That's your opinion. Can I give my opinion?
It's One Kenya Alliance, NASA, and maybe then Hustler Nation.
Let me give one.
Grander than 202.
All right, let us think. Give me an opportunity to give my opinion. I think I should give. That's your opinion.
Right.
But my opinion and my analysis of what is happening is, like I've said, after the handshake, Raila Odinga abandoned his NASA affiliates. His NASA affiliates have now said that NASA is dead and they do not wish to be part of that coalition. Therefore, you find that ODM is on their own, and these other NASA affiliates who have been abandoned have set up what they call the One Kenya Alliance. If you look at the structure and their statements, they are clearly, they are tribal cocoons that they are creating among themselves. And even today, as we speak in Kenya, there is only one presidential candidate who has declared categorically that I'm running for president, and that is William Ruto. Raila is not sure that he's running. Kalonzo is begging to be supported. Wetangula and Mudavadi and the others are still checking out, can we set up a new coalition called One Kenya? So they're in a state of confusion. My team is clear what we want to do. And in fact, with the Hustler movement, it's tribeless. It is not around tribal kingpins. We are saying we want like-minded Kenyans who want to make sure that they drive their economy, where everybody has an equal opportunity in this country, that we begin to stop focusing on the top companies and the big taxpayers and so on, and go and grow the economy from the bottom coming up. And therefore, and that is where you find it resonates with Kenyans. If you remember, and I can liken the position that William Ruto is in now with that of Kibaki in 2002. Kibaki came in as a truly national figure. He had the National Rainbow Coalition. He had what you call the Pentagon.
And so which
everybody was
coalition?
on the table. When he set his cabinet was the face of Kenya. What did he do after 2 years in office? He basically had just the central Kenya people on the seat. And Kenyans are after that, like-minded Kenyans who are like Raila Odinga, broke off and set up, soon after the 2005 referendum, they set up the Orange Democratic Movement.
Okay.
And you can see, historically, it's normal that when you cease to agree with your party, you move to and start move and make a formation with people who are like-minded.
That's why
Kibaki came in 62%.
And that's what you were
and
challenged
I think
about leaving. But you made a good point about 2002 and the coalition. I want to put this question to you, Ndungu Gethinji, that yes, Honorable Boss talks about that the narrative of the hustler nation is resonating, and that it's not about
resonating. And that it's not of the young people,
and it's not about the tribal kingpins. But the realities, as you were talking about earlier, of our politics, as has been, is unfortunately that same tribal politics. So, would this hustler narrative movement change the dynamic of how people have voted in this country? Because coalition, even for Kibaki in 02. Raila alisema Kibaki tosha, and all of these other people backed him. Can he pull this from where you sit alone to you?
No, but you allowed him to interject. I think you'll just let me 1 minute.
Please, Tafadhal.
I'm just requesting.
Let me.
If I can just answer, I'll give you my sister. I mean, we're not fighting here. You know, this narrative of the hustler nation, to me, has certain alarm bells which are being sounded. To the effect that you're having this culture that there are those who are hustlers and there are those who are not hustlers, and those who are not hustlers, in fact, the Deputy President himself has classified them as dynasty. And therefore,
no, it was Mutahi Ngunyi. It was not the Deputy President. Correct your facts again. You never check your facts. It was Mutahi Ngunyi in a YouTube video.
If I'm mistaken, I stand corrected.
Yes.
So there are dynasties and there are hustlers.
By Mutahi Ngunyi.
By Mutahi, but you see, now we're riding on this hustler nation. We're even tweeting about hustler nation, and we're not correcting the perception in the minds of the public that we are not against the dynasties. We are not doing that. And he is the one who's the ultimate beneficiary of that narrative, and yet he's not making the correction.
But do you think he eventually,
as dangerous as it has the potential to become, it behoves him. He has a responsibility to say no. Even the so-called dynasties or the the power class are Kenyans too. They, at one point in their history, were hustlers too. William Ruto is not a poor man by any standard of the imagination. And is he a hustler or is he a dynasty?
So do you think he'll eventually have to toe that line of form coalition?
Let's go further.
With those
where do our children go to school? Where do they, because we want to say that we are hustlers. But where do your children go to school? Which companies do your children work in? So this thing of classifying or creating a class struggle or class separation in Kenya is completely irresponsible and very dangerous.
Right.
I also wanted to
but Sophia much numbered here, so I have to be allowed to respond.
No, I'll let you. I just, go ahead, because I've actually lost the other point.
I think one of the issues he talked about is that these tribal kingpins and the people of Mount Kenya feel this way. Let me tell you something.
That's the other point.
In 2022, 60% of our voting bloc will be young people. These are people who do not know about your tribes.
But where do they live?
They did not know. I know young people who tell me who are the Kakuyus, and they are themselves a Kakuyus.
So that is a dynamic.
That's a dynamic, and I think
that is a false premise. I'll tell you why. Because they live in the counties. So the 60%, the youth,
they don't even understand the tribes at all.
For instance, I'll give you an example of where I come from, my backyard, because that's what I know. The youth who are coming up, who will now be voters in 2022, in central Kenya or in Nyeri County, where I come from, so they're Kikuyus, they live there.
Well, 2022, it's coming next year. We will see what will play out. But I want to bring in Jakakimba.
So to say that they're tribeless, it's a false premise.
Is dead.
It's a false premise.
Many of them have said
about the hustler.
And also that misunderstood the hustler narrative.
Yes.
The use of the dynasty and hustler.
And that has been canvassed heavily.
It has been, but the Deputy President needs to be honest with Kenyans. because he's the #1 person in this country. Ruto has been around for some time. He was just a lucky youth who started early, in the early 90s. In 1992, he supported Dynasty in Nyayo. In 1997, he supported Dynasty in Nyayo. William supported Dynasty. If he claims Raila Odinga is Dynasty, we know how much frontal he was in pushing for a Raila Odinga presidency in 2007. If Uhuru Kenyatta and the Kenyatas are dynasties, even today, including yesterday, he keeps tweeting, my closest friend, my person, we supported him, Turaku, Uchu. He has been supporting dynasties throughout. And this politics of trying to glorify poverty, that approach of glorification of poverty is venomous and will set Kenyans apart.
I think let me correct this, because it's a very dangerous set you're saying. By the way, let me correct this. And I've said it on this set before. Watch Muhtani Ngunyi's YouTube video and just search under dynasties versus hustlers. He actually even had diagrams describing, so he came up with the hustler and versus dynasty narrative. It was never from William Ruto.
That William Ruto has supported dynasties
but hold on. And the hustler movement and the hustler narrative has never said that if you are born a hustler, you will remain a hustler. We are actually saying you can be a hustler today, but you have an opportunity to become someone.
To the point
he
has made.
No, and we didn't even call them dynasties. We're just saying you become somebody. And you will have growth.
Okay.
So we didn't use the words dynasty. So when you look at it, maybe you can say that Uhuru Kenyatta, once upon, his father was a hustler. He was a meter reader in the Nairobi County place. Moi was a goat herder, and then grew to a primary school teacher. Okay. And then later, maybe it's his generation of children that can be called dynasties. That's what people are referring to dynasties, so, not my words. So you cannot, you're misunderstanding the hustler narrative.
Point has been made.
And if you can read it, you will understand it better. Then you don't have to misinform
Well, you see, it's not
Kenyans.
about reading it. You see, Sophie, this is constantly thrust in our faces by the tweets of people within the hustler nation itself. Some of the members of parliament actually go to the ground and even throw that word dynasties around, and they say these are dynasties, that's what hustlers. So it is not about reading it. It is something that is active.
All right,
but don't accuse William Ruto of it.
What I am
he has no control over his members.
What I am accusing him of
Let's
is
be
not
fair.
making the correction. He has the highest responsibility. Because
so he's supposed to be scouting the social media and correcting it?
He knows.
All right, ladies, gentlemen.
And the meetings that he has
taking us
overseen,
back to,
he has a responsibility to make a correction.
Taking us back to the national NASA.
They say, Mudavadi has said it's dead.
And many times they've canvassed around that. However, Jakakimba, isn't there a point that has been made by these leaders, the likes of Wetangula, of Musalia Mudavadi, and Kalonzo, that they have supported Raila Odinga, that he should rudisha mkono? Isn't that a valid point?
I don't think this is the time for that. To think about.
Is it a valid
point? When is the time?
For talking about who becomes the presidential candidate.
Not even about who becomes the presidential candidate, that he should this time around support a different person. Not who exactly, but that they've supported him. He's been the main candidate, the captain. Isn't there merit?
But they supported him to be president. Raila has never been president.
And maybe it's because the
candidate...
He has attempted 5 times.
And so maybe the canvas, flip side of that would be, then maybe we are supporting you and it's because you're the one we are supporting that we are not clinching it. So maybe let's turn it around and we may be lucky.
Not exactly.
If you're driving a car that hits the wall 10 times, then you must tell yourself something's wrong with the car.
This is not the time to talk about who becomes president within the ODM formation or within the broader alliance that is being built. This is not that time.
So, but NASA is dead from where you sit.
I told you earlier that what is meant to be formed is going to be grandiose, bigger and better.
So what we've seen
could be
today,
bigger and better than what
Jubilee and ODM will be what will...
And Honorable Kalonzo, and I said even Ruto, William, is free to join if he wants to help in shepherding the
nation to the next level. It's 12 months to
sometimes an outsider's perspective is refreshing. Honorable Boss said that Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi abandoned Raila Odinga.
Were abandoned by Raila.
Were abandoned by Raila Odinga, I apologize. Now, my reading of that situation, and if you look at the timeline of history from the election to the Supreme Court ruling, to the repeat election, they were together. The point at which they left each other was the seminal moment of NASA's, trajectory to the logical conclusion of their struggle was the swearing in at Uhuru Park. I don't know, maybe I didn't see properly, but when I saw on TV, Raila was alone. He was there by himself with his ODM people. True. Kalonzo Musyoka, Steve was not there. Musalia Mudavadi was not there. So, just asking a question, who abandoned who? I'm an outsider. I'm just watching. Yeah. Who abandoned who?
So, okay, they abandoned each other. Let's put it that way. Now that you've corrected me, they abandoned each other. I think Honorable
Kalonzo himself gave an answer to this question, that there is room for rapprochement between him and Odinga and like-minded leaders. And even going back to the meeting that was there today between our ODM leaders and Jubilee, is about shared values. And
yeah, well, he said they can work together, but went on to say he'd be stupid to support Raila for them to sit again.
I just gave you the context of his remarks yesterday.
But he said it's
the house is on
maybe
fire.
Regional competitors like Dr. Alfred Mutua, sometimes there's pressure. You think that if, say, the purported remarks, I've never seen a clip where...
No, you should just leave Kalonzo's words the way he said them. Don't try and paraphrase them and create...
The assumption that the post-NASA candidate would be Raila Odinga would make, bring some changes in the question of regional politics.
Sophia.
So maybe there are those pressures from the ground within that region. And it's something
so you're giving him an excuse.
Cyrus, yeah, I want to help him. You also need to draw from what we saw the president doing. When the President Uhuru Kenyatta reached out, who did he reach out to? Did he do a handshake with Kalonzo Musyoka? No. Did he do one with Musalia? He did with Raila Odinga. Why? Because it is largely acknowledged, even Honorable Boss said, that it was Raila who had the role of playing the opposition, and Raila, by the way, is not in parliament. So how is he playing opposition, leader from outside? There's an entire opposition minority section in the House.
Who moras everything of government. That's why Junet said, in ODM we are cows.
And Raila is outside.
He's not in
Isn't he in government now?
The fact that
Isn't he in government
Raila
now?
Odinga, or Uhuru Kenyatta, the president,
like
reached out to Raila, tells you a lot about Raila and tells you about who he is in this country.
All right, so opposition, in essence, is dead. You're the new opposition.
Yeah, we are the new opposition.
You're the new opposition.
I'm the new leader of opposition.
Why are you not holding the president account?
But I have. I've called him out every single time. I've called him out and said he should dissolve parliament. I called him out on the judges. I called him out on BBI. I called him out on trying to take the independence of the judiciary. I called him out on... taking away the functions of Nairobi County to the central government. I wrote an article in the Nation, and I wrote articles on all those. So I have called him out. So I've actually played my role, my newly found role as leader of opposition.
I'm really happy because, my honorable sister here is practicing for her new role in the next post-2022.
We have 5 minutes.
Leader of the opposition.
No, I'm going to be in government.
We have 5 minutes. So for quickly canvass this issue around the Mount Kenya.
My president is winning, and you know that. Because there's no other candidate as we speak.
You see,
there's no, is there any other candidate?
No,
there's only one candidate.
If you go to the horse races and a horse is running on the field by itself, whether it crosses the finish line by itself or not, and the whistle has not blown for the race to start, that horse cannot
That's why I told people, William Ruto at the moment is running against himself.
The whistle has
Raila,
not been blown.
who was the one who stood for the rule of law, has lost his brand, and that brand has been taken away from him.
Okay, Mount Kenya region, restlessness there. Uhuru is exiting the scene, at least as president. We're now seeing Mount Kenya East talk, and then there's Mount Kenya West coming out to speak. You have the likes of JB Muturi. We've seen coronations. The other day we had Wanjigi is throwing his hat in the ring. I begin with you, Silas, on this one. What do you make of this vote-rich basket and all the permutations playing out? And if, in fact, you think they threaten to split the vote there?
Well, just like it may happen in a home state, when a father is about to leave, you find there's a number of things happening. The kids the juniors are running around here and there. It doesn't mean they stop being kids of the family, or that the family is coming down because the father is going out on an excursion or something. So I think within the broader context of politics, even regional politics, is understandable. And in the fullness of time, things will fall into place. And I know this region from, as you just said earlier, that as an outsider observing from outside, I would say the same. I know it's a region that really knows how to take care of its interests. And even what they think now, the Tanga movement, they keep Tanga without an agenda at all, because they stand for nothing. In the fullness of time, this region will get to know this is where our interests are. Those interests normally are purely economic. And for now, I think it's okay for them to jostle and,
Well, I think what is happening is extremely clear.
Yeah.
William Ruto has Rift Valley solely behind him. All communities in Rift Valley, and as you know, Rift Valley has several communities. Central Kenya is solely behind William Ruto, and that has come out so clearly, hence the panic that is happening in Central Kenya.
So how do you say that?
Not that? It is obvious. We all know that. You can tell. How many times has Uhuru Kenyatta
The
gone
panic
to,
is in Tanga.
No, hold on. How many times has even Uhuru Kenyatta gone to Central Kenya? Uhuru Kenyatta has not even been able to go to Gatundu Market.
But Uhuru is not competing with William on conducting political rallies. He is focused on development.
We saw video clips of the way he was received. I don't know if it was in Kayole or Thiru or someplace. It's bad. We can tell that he's lost his popularity. And Central Kenya has come out clearly and said, we are not something in your pocket for you to hand over to whoever you want. They have been incapable of selling Raila Odinga in Central Kenya. And then look at Raila. Raila was controlling the whole of the larger Nyanza. Right now, he's remaining with a little bit of Luo Nyanza only. The other day, the Raila Odinga we knew was struggling to win a seat in Kisii. Those places were usually walkovers for him. We watched him lose the seat in Western Kenya. Yes, he did lose the seat. Usually, that was an ODM zone that he would not have a problem, which means he has lost the support base that he had in Western Kenya, in Kisii, and he's losing the coast, as we saw recently with the Musambweni and the talks by the coast leaders. He has lost that. So with Kalonzo in Eastern saying, I'm going it alone. Hold on. I'm just finishing my sentence. I'm going it alone. And then we have a challenge also in Luo Nyanza. Remember, what Raila was loved for.
You're analyzing all the regions.
Yes, I'm analyzing all the regions.
I'll put this question directly to you.
Because I don't look at the country as just Mount Kenya. I'm just explaining to them how my candidate is going to win the presidency in 2022.
The thing is, and your colleague, Honorable Rigathi, sat right here and said, we may not be enjoying the support of the region. It may be more of a protest vote that is being translated as support for the Hustler Nation, that perhaps that is what you need to consider. He alluded to that point and said, even with Kiamba, and perhaps as I come to you, that this is a huge one for Jubilee. If they don't get this one, this feeling, this sentiment that Hustler movement is running away with Mount Kenya region,
that's why there's a
will
panic.
Continue to simmer.
Sophia, like I said earlier, if you're running a race by yourself, you can win because there's nobody with you.
But because your opponents are asleep.
But the moment the actual race starts and you're told ready, set, go on your marks, and the starter's gun goes, you find all lanes will be occupied. Central Kenya has never, ever in the history of this republic been without leadership. It will not begin today. Central Kenya,
is that a threat?
Mount Kenya.
You're entitled. Are you telling us Central Kenya is entitled to leadership? Is that your statement or what I say? They've never been without leadership and they will not begin today?
Article 4, Chapter 2 of the Constitution, Kenya will be a multi-party democracy, shall be a multi-party democracy. When you say a multi-party democracy,
so you're saying they will have their own party? Or?
When you say multi-party democracy, you talk of two things, suffrage, universal suffrage, passive and active suffrage. Passive suffrage is the right to field a candidate, the right to stand for election. That is ingrained in democracy. Active suffrage is the right to vote.
Okay, say it practically now.
So there will be a Mount
communities
Kenya
have
presidential candidate.
There will be a Mount Kenya as a presidential candidate.
They have a right. They have a right.
That right cannot be taken.
No, Joyce, it's not about timing. It's about whether it is permissible. The answer is yes. It is permissible. It is their right. So the Mount Kenya communities currently, presently, are in talks, coalescing the Mount Kenya communities. First,
But you're
to
pulling
achieve
from different
unity.
ends.
First, to achieve unity. That is normal. People have the right to exercise
You couldn't
their...
even agree on Muturi.
They have the right to exercise their opinions, to exercise, and also competition is also healthy. It allows us to see, you know, what are you made of? Because you're saying you can do the A, B, and C. What are you made of? All dreams, all aspirations, all ambitions are valid. Even myself, Ndungu Gethinji, I believe I can be a very good president of the Republic of Kenya. But do I have the capacity financially today to make that run? I don't think so. Whether I will have it another time, God only knows. But the point I'm making here is that
we have to go.
if there are people who are standing and saying they're going to stand from Central Kenya, it is a good thing.
Yes.
Okay.
That will reach the logical conclusion at the right time, but ultimately there will be a coalescence of
Just
the
one
region.
thing to put in, Sophia.
And,
the people
and then there will be bridges built with other communities, so we can have a coalition that makes sense, that can win power.
I'll
and
give you
that
30
is where
seconds.
we're going.
Yeah.
Winning
Yeah,
power
the people
is the game.
Yeah, the people of Central Kenya are proud and hardworking people. They are people who don't depend on handouts. They have their own mind, and they are not the type
So why are you
to
being-
agree
why are
to
you being
entertain
given
a leader.
wheelbarrows?
No.
Why are you being
they're
given
not being given.
wheelbarrows?
You know, wheelbarrow is a symbol of hard work. You're taking it simply.
No, handouts.
So
You're
I'm
talking
not
about
going to
handouts.
discuss a simplistic view with
What?
you.
We have 30
But
seconds.
One thing, if we talk about the wheelbarrow, symbolizes hard work. Let me tell you, if there's anyone who understands hard work, it's the people of Central Kenya. The people of Central Kenya will tell you, we will vote for you only if it's going to boost our economy, because they have been sharp on that from the beginning and since independence. And that is why they resonate with the hustler movement.
So what I'm seeing here is that William Samoei Arap Ruto is depending on Central Kenya to make him a president. That is a false premise, because the Mount Kenya people will, without a shadow of a doubt, have their own kingpin, have their own leader, have their own candidate running for president in the next general election.
Thank you.
And William will have to go and fish for votes elsewhere.
Elsewhere is
or
how you
make a deal
But
with
I
us.
analyze
Or
the
make
whole
a
country.
deal. Or make a deal. All right.
If we have more,
We have to
more
go.
votes than him, then maybe he can deputize us again.
Ndungu Gethinji, former Tetu member of parliament, Gladys Shollei, Gishu woman rep, and Cyrus Jakakimba. He's a senior advisor to the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, and also an advocate of the High Court. Thank you so much for watching Crossfire this evening. On behalf of the team that made the show possible, always a pleasure to have your company. I'm at Sophia Wanuna. Have a blessed evening.